Somewhere, right at the bottom of one's own being, one generally does know where one should go and what one should do. But there are times when the clown we call I behaves in such a distracting fashion that the inner voice cannot make its presence felt. Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes. A man who has not passed through the inferno of his passions has never overcome them. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. In each of us, there is another whom we do not know. The urge to become what one is invincibly strong, and you can always count on it. But that does not mean things will necessarily turn out positively. If you are not interested in your own fate, the unconscious is. As any change must begin somewhere, it is the single individual who will experience it and carry it through. The change must indeed begin with an individual. It might be any one of us. Nobody can afford to look around and wait for somebody else to do what he is loath to do himself. Man is not a machine that can be remodeled for quite other purposes as occasion demands, in the hope that it will go on functioning as regularly as before, but in a quite different way. He carries his whole history with him. In his very structure is the written history of mankind. Man's task is to become conscious of the contents that press upward from the unconscious. Follow that will and that way, which experience confirms to be your own. The rational attitude, which permits us to declare objective values as valid at all, is not the work of the individual subject, but the product of human history. To find out what is truly individual in ourselves, profound reflection is needed. And suddenly, we realize how uncommonly difficult the discovery of individuality is. The highest, most decisive experience is to be alone with oneself. You must be alone to find out what supports you, when you find that you cannot support yourself. Only this experience can give you an indestructible foundation. I don't aspire to be a good man. I aspire to be a whole man. The greatest and most important problems of life are all fundamentally insoluble. They can never be solved, but only outgrown. The first half of life is devoted to forming a healthy ego. The second half is going inward and letting go of it. Thoroughly unprepared, we take the step into the afternoon of life. Worse still, we take this step with the false presupposition that our truths and ideals will serve us as hitherto. But we cannot live the afternoon of life according to the program of life's morning. For what was great in the morning will be little at evening, and what in the morning was true, at evening will have become a lie. Everything that irritates us about others can lead to a better understanding of ourselves. Every human life contains a potential. If that potential is not fulfilled, then that life is wasted. I shall not commit the fashionable stupidity of regarding everything I cannot explain as a fraud. We should not pretend to understand the world only by the intellect. We apprehend it just as much by feeling. Therefore, the judgment of the intellect is, at best, only the half of truth, and must, if it be honest, also come to an understanding of its inadequacy. I regret many follies which sprang from my obstinacy, but without that trait, I would not have reached my goal. Resistance to the organized mass can be effected only by the man who is as well organized in his individuality as the mass itself. That which compels us to create a substitute for ourselves is not the external lack of objects, but our incapacity to lovingly include a thing outside of ourselves. How can I be substantial if I do not cast a shadow? I must have a dark side also if I am to be whole. We cannot change anything unless we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people. What you resist persists. Whatever is rejected from the self appears in the world as an event. The acceptance of oneself is the essence of the whole moral problem, and the epitome of a whole outlook on life. Find out what a person fears most, and that is where he will develop next.